Alright, hello and welcome back, Book Besties. If I'm a new face to you today, hello, my name is Lauren, and today I'm joined by my friend Elizabeth.
Hi everybody.
And today we thought we would just do a fun little podcast episode of our latest buddy book read, and we read...
You know, honestly, I'm going to miss say the name, so I'm just going to read it. Spark of the Everflame.
By Penn Cole.
Book 1.
Book 1. I know, we did not know that going into it.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So
it is available on Kindle Unlimited if you're wondering, and it's a romantasy book. It's really interesting, and it was really easy to read.
Oh, I mean, if we wouldn't have been co-reading it, I would have had it done in a day.
I know, I slowed you down. I think we did 4 chapters a day or something.
I think our original goal was like 5, and then a couple days we exceeded our goal. I think one day we hit 10.
Because there's like only 30-something chapters in here. It's not a very thick book, as you'll see. It was good, and I actually found it from another booktuber who kind of recommended it, but just like recommended it as good. So if you have not seen Raven-Haired Reader, just go check her out. She's really great. She recommended this one. She loved this one. Immediately dove into the second one, I think, and
That's what I'm going to be doing after we finish this video.
I know.
Been itching for a week now.
So let's just get into it.
Okay.
So we have some snacks.
Yeah.
We have some thoughts. We have our text chain. Because that's how we did our buddy read. We didn't like sit in the same spot and read it every day.
Well, our schedules don't really allow us to. We work during the same time, and
it just didn't make sense. And we're also in her beautiful Lego room. So if you're a Lego fan, and you'll notice this isn't my usual setup, but beautiful.
There's more hiding. You just can't see it.
So how did you rate this book?
So I think I ended up rating it a 4 out of 5, but we've discussed that my scale is a little different.
Do you want to explain it while I look up what I actually rated it?
Yeah, so on a 5-star scale, a 5 to me is a book that I 100% would pick up and read again tomorrow. Like, there's no questions asked. I would tell you, like, this book changed me, or this book meant a lot to me. You definitely need to read it. A 4-star is, I recommend it, but I probably won't pick it up maybe a year, couple months again. Just not really something I'm dying to pick back up again. 3 stars is good read, well written. It's about the extent of it. 2 stars is not really gonna recommend it, but it's not horrible. 1 star is don't recommend, don't pick it up, don't read it.
So what'd you rate it?
I rated it 4.
I rated it 5. Which means for me, if you've been watching my channel for a little bit, really great book. So this is my 3rd 5-star read of the year, and I just hit my 60 book goal out of 100. What about you?
I hit 70.
Out of 60 books, this is my 3rd 5-star read. Everything about it was really good. All of it was really well done.
I just had a hard time even wanting to put it down. There weren't a lot of chapters, but there were in a way. But they were written short and quick, and that made you...
Mm-hmm. And all of them had cliffhangers at the end.
Yeah, made you want to keep going to the next one. Like,
you wanted to keep reading, and it was addicting.
Yes.
Like chips or something.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I decided to skim read it again last night to remind myself, and...
You should have just read it.
Should have just reread the whole book again.
And I was just like, book closed. That was phenomenal. Move on.
And the only reason it really didn't get a 5-star is because there are more books. So if I continue the series and it keeps up with the 4-star, the last one will probably get a 5-star, and that would to me signify that that whole series is worth a reread.
Yeah.
You know, if the quality maintains that well throughout the whole series, I would probably reread this whole series.
Now that you say that, now I'm a bit nervous.
Well, there's a lot of times with books that, you know, it's the first book is wonderful, great, but by the second, third, and especially some books get into 4, 5, 6, especially you find that on Kindle Unlimited a lot.
It's kind of like that with Zodiac Academy.
See,
like the first 3 were really, really good, and then all the other ones, I think they're up to 9 now, they kind of started like petering off for me.
So I worry, so giving it a 5-star as a book in a series is harder to justify because there's a high chance that it won't continue the same quality throughout the series.
I'm going to keep it at 5.
Hey, we rate differently, we're different people, and that's how it should be. You know, and I think this book has potential to be a 5-star book. There's no reason it shouldn't be a 5-star book other than there's a burden that's now been placed for the sequels.
For the others. What is our, like a total of 3?
But I think there might be a 4th dropping. I'd have to double check. I really don't.
That makes me really nervous if it's an ongoing series then. Let's get into the characters and the world.
Okay.
So we have our protagonist, Diem. She is a healer. She's following in her mother's footsteps.
Which I could not pronounce her mother's name. Did you ever figure out how to pronounce it? I got it written right here. Don't worry, that's part of my cheat sheet. A-U-R-A.
Orally.
Okay.
Which,
I just referred to her as Mother when I would read it, because that was just easier on me. I do that a lot with my reading. If I can't pronounce a name, I try my hardest, I look it up, but we're human. We can't pronounce names all the time.
so I would sometimes have to
names.
say, like, Orally, Orally.
Okay.
Arlie.
A lot of times I'll just use the first letter, and especially when I really get
A. And you're just like, whatever. I know who the character is. I don't need to read the name in my head.
Well, because when I really get into reading it, I don't want to feel like I'm stumping myself because I want to pronounce the name right every time.
And it's like that in so many fantasy books. Whatever.
Yeah.
Or you can just say mother.
Yeah.
Because also, she's the only mother in the book.
Yeah, as far as we know right now. We haven't been introduced to another.
I know. I don't think we met Luther's mother. Do you want to explain who Luther is?
So Luther's the prince, and he is the apparent heir to the throne.
Okay, so I will say, we'll stop right there. So if you want to read this book, maybe don't watch this just yet, because there are going to be spoilers, because if you watched my review videos in the past, you know I can't give a full review without giving spoilers. I usually try my best in those, but...
And we're also just more having a discussion today,
yeah,
so it's more likely to...
Maybe go read the book, come back and watch this, and see
if you agree with us, or how your thoughts align with ours, more so
or like how they differ, really.
Watch the first part of the book to know, or video to know if you should read the book.
Yeah.
Pause the video, read the book, then come back.
Exactly.
Yeah, perfect.
However you want to do it. Or if you just want spoilers, just
yeah,
go in with it like that. I don't care.
But even then, I think with our spoilers, they're not so descriptive that they're still gonna. I mean, they will.
We're gonna talk about it. So who cares?
Oh yeah, fair enough.
Spoilers. You know my policy at this point. But Luther, heir apparent to the throne, but like he is the descended prince.
Yes.
Crown prince. Essentially.
Well, and that's also there's different types of beings in this world. There's the descended, there's the mortals, and then there's the old gods.
The old gods, and then there's the essentially half mortal, half descended, and the descendeds are the ones with magic, and there's like 9 realms, and the world is like a
the book has a nice little
oh, it has a thingy.
Yeah, and then it also breaks down the different realms.
Okay.
So one of the downsides to the Kindle with reading something like this is it's harder to go back and forth to those. But I typically just take a picture of it on my phone at the start of a book on my Kindle.
That's smart.
And so that way I can reference it when it says something and I don't realize where it is.
I just imagine it.
Fair enough. I like,
And I had the physical copy to look at, so...
Well, some books, they give you so much information at the start that if you can't physically flip back to it, it's nice to have it.
It's hard, yeah. Each of the realms has 2 magic powers, and so we are...
In the light and dark.
Light and spiriters. Shadows.
Yeah.
So that's where Luther, Diem's little brother, Teller, her dad,
Princess Lily,
Mara, something, I don't know.
She's like
the head healer in charge of the clinic.
Diem trains under
Diem's
her.
mom. Diem trains under her,
Yeah, and then she takes over a role that Diem's mother was filling
by being a healer at the palace.
Because Diem's mom just up and pieces out at the beginning of the book.
Or somebody
kidnaps
her.
You really don't know
until literally the epilogue.
The epilogue. And that epilogue just...
It kind of rocks your world, because I thought we were going to get... Okay, so I got to the epilogue, right? I gave you my holy shit moment.
Yeah.
I literally finished that last chapter and I texted you immediately. And then I was like, okay, the epilogue is going to be her settling in, gonna...
No.
No?
No.
No.
No, the epilogue kind of aggravated me because it was like...
Her mom has just been
just hanging out.
In a forest, not far away, because she can hear Diem scream.
Yeah. And then the dad I guess it's technically her stepfather.
But her father.
Yeah, the man who raised her, because her actual dad, is unknown. But
I have a theory, and we're going to get into it. Because I didn't get to tell you this whole theory.
But I think, he obviously knew because the whole way he reacted, because, I'm sorry, if my significant other went missing, I'd be burning the world down trying to figure out where they were. I wouldn't just...
And he's like, she'll come back. She'll come back. He was only stressed for that first day. And what really irritated me about that was when Diem was at the palace overnight, and he was like, this was like the last time somebody from my family has gone missing or something like that. You didn't even think about how it would hurt us, blah, blah, blah. Yet he's so chill about his wife being gone. And I'm like...
But that was... I don't think he was talking about his wife.
It was for show,
Yeah.
I think.
Oh, yeah.
Showing that, oh, I'm so nervous, but he, like, knew she was a spy. Like, before the palace catches on fire, whatever happened, the armory, something.
Where they bomb it.
He's like, yeah, I knew she was a spy, and she came back with a baby. And I'm like...
But, see, I think I told you my theory quickly about it when we first started reading, that, you know, that Diem is some form of a descendant. We don't, you know, she's a...
Oh, yeah, I mean, you can kind of tell that from the first part where she's like, I need to be taking fire's breath, or whatever the plant is.
But you don't know who her dad is, and when you and I were texting about Luther, I made the joking comment that he could be her cousin. Because, I mean, in a way, it could be. Like, that could be a way she totally throws everybody for a loop. Makes you think they're going to be lovers, and then, they could be siblings, you know? Like,
I think they're still going to be lovers. I don't think they're going to be siblings or cousins or anything.
But it would be
I think her father, this is the whole thing I was, like, trying to call you about that one day.
Okay.
They were in the war realm, where everybody, like, the warriors get the killing power, and then the women are healers.
Yeah.
She has both. So her dad had to have come from there. And so technically, when the crown transferred over to her...
But would
I think the old gods interfered, and I think... So that was the original, but based on what her mom said, I think her father is an old god.
Well, see, that was kind of a theory I was going with. I don't necessarily think she is a descendant. I think
because she's hearing this voice.
She's different than everybody else. There's something about her that's going to come out, hopefully in the next book, that will explain, but her powers aren't manifesting or showing the same way as the book describes other descended to have. And if she was a true half and half, in this book, they kill them when they're born. And
but that's why her mom was hiding her, yeah.
But at the same time, I don't know, I just find it hard to believe that her mom was able to hide. You know, we saw in the book where another woman hid one for 4 years and they still were able to figure it out. And
that guy was a douche.
I know, but the point being, is they can figure it out. So how was she able to... There's no way it was just this plant that the girl was taking that was preventing her powers from really, like, a true all-powerful
But then why is it under so much lock and key, and, like, you have to get all 9 of the king's permissions to even open the door to get to that plant? And then
I wonder, but could that not be poisonous to them or hurt them in some way if you were true full blood?
Full descended, but
and then if you're not, it stumps your powers.
Being like an old god.
There's so much still kind of open-ended of things that could come from this that we just...
You need the second book.
Yeah.
So, characters.
Okay.
Diem.
So I feel she's ignorant in a lot of life because she was hidden away.
She's so sheltered.
Yeah, her parents...
Her mom.
Well, yeah, her mom, and even her dad, because he was a commander in the military, so he knew all the bad in the world. He protected her from really seeing it.
And he trained her to fight and protect herself. But it's like, if you're not allowing her to see...
the bad, then what's all that training for? Because when she goes out, she's going to end up probably using it on the wrong side because she's going to be manipulated.
Kind of like exactly what we saw, because Henry. Also, I'm glad what I originally thought about Henry and Teller did not come to pass.
Oh, yeah, when you said that, I was like,
Teller's like 16 or 17 or something.
And he's special because her mother made a deal with the Descended.
So he could go to the Descended school, where he would usually be done with school in the mortal schooling
At 16, system. You're an adult. No, wasn't it 15?
Something.
Yeah, it was not our standard for adults. But then they made a deal. She worked in the palace so her son could go to their school and continue to learn.
And essentially go to this other realm where they're like... and professory.
It's like the more
academic,
prestigious side.
Prestigious. Okay, there we go.
And that's where he meets the Prince Luther's cousin.
No, sister.
Okay.
Lily.
Yeah, they're sisters. They're the niece and nephew of the current king, right?
Yes. Who is on his deathbed.
Yeah.
And eventually dies by the end of the book.
Lily and Teller are going to end up together.
They are.
And they're going to abolish the laws that prevent...
I think so.
I mean, how else? I mean, and that's what you see in a lot of these kind of fantasy books is the young generation, the new generation, finding these corrupt laws and rules and passings.
And just being like,
we're not going to stand for this anymore.
Yeah.
Things got to change. It's not allowed to happen anymore.
But I'm glad Henry did not kill Teller.
But see, there's still...
But, Henry did cause a lot of shit.
Well, he did manipulate her with Teller, though, by telling her that typically when humans go on to study there, they research until they become the research.
Or they just straight up are the research.
Yeah, so he's essentially putting this fear
meaning
and
that
doubt
they're like, I'm sure your brain can take it to the right place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they want to know how mortals work, how their bodies, how their brains absorb knowledge.
Sick.
And yeah,
I think they're just sick.
When there's a huge disconnect between power and no power. I mean, because the mortals in this world essentially live like garbage. You know,
It's really sad, and she starts to see that, but I think it takes her too long, and I think she does it in the wrong way.
Yeah.
By immediately being like, I saw this happen, I want to help.
But she
and then doesn't kind of like, exactly, and she doesn't go, so what is this going to be used for? How are we doing this? Why are you only telling me a piece of it? Also, we never got to meet the rebel leader, who was a woman, and I think Henry manipulated DM.
Oh yeah, I think Vance is the actual...
Oh yeah, because...
And then the fact that they poisoned the little girl.
Vance is the leader of the rebellion group
called the Guardians.
Of the Guardians. Is it Lumos where we're at?
Yes.
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 Lumos, because there's Mortal City.
Because they travel to Fortos.
Okay.
And that would make sense. Anywhere else would be more of a travel than they explained it in the book.
And Diem and Henry are like, they're like childhood besties.
Turned into...
friends to lovers.
Friends with benefits. I wouldn't even say necessarily full. It doesn't.
Well, he tried to marry her. It was very manipulative.
He wants her in that way, but she kind of saw, to me, I read it as she saw him more as a fun thing for a bit. Like, it was almost kind of natural that their relationship progressed to that because it was just expected, not that she truly...
But I think she was also hesitant because, like, some part of her knew something's not sitting well with this guy, and maybe I shouldn't just like go head first into a marriage with him.
Well, that to me that feels like that voice in her head that we see in the book, that it probably has always been there, but to her she's always kind of maybe heard it as more of her inner voice.
Yeah.
Telling her like, hey, something's not right here. Because when in conversations with Henry, that voice tells her
like fight. So also that's like the only thing that voice would ever say.
True.
And also it kind of helped her with her dad. That one time at the very end. Because, I mean, she couldn't have gone through that in front of her dad and tell her.
Well, Teller was there.
Oh, shit, Teller was there.
When she ran away... No, her dad wasn't there because she left after... So they got in an argument because she ended up spending a night at the palace after the palace was bombed by the Guardians. And the prince sent a letter that explained that she was there, and her stepdad wasn't okay with that. Well, she also found out that he had re-enlisted in the military without telling them. And he was going to go kill mortals, essentially.
And that was revealed by Henry trying to manipulate Diem.
To stay on his side.
Yeah, and being like, your dad is awful. He's going to go kill our people, our guardians.
So you should be on our side.
Which, that's messy anyways.
But after their blow up, you know, because her dad calls her out first for the stuff, you know, saying, well, I got an interesting letter, you know, and just kind of making her feel like crap. And then the voice in the back of her head starts saying, fight. And that's when she brings up, well... I heard you re-enlisted last week. When were you going to tell us?
And then Teller gets pissed, and he never gets pissed.
And then she brings up, I think you know about Mom. Like, I think you're hiding something about Mom, but you're just choosing not to tell us.
And he's like, no, I don't, blah, blah. And that's when the voice starts to say, fight.
It gets real, like, more constant. And I read it as louder when fonts get bigger and bolder. As
and I mean, I guess the way that it made it sound was like it was just constant. Like, you're trying to talk about it, it's like, fight.
Yeah.
But I was just seeing it as like it's happening and it's going, fight, like right now, like you need, and like the urgency behind it.
I get that, yeah. I could see it both ways, and it could be both at the same time.
I think so.
You know, because it's
hard for that to come across in a book, but I think it did it really
and I think that might be something an audiobook could give that we couldn't give.
I don't know.
If the audiobook consulted the author and how they wrote it.
Yeah.
You know, because I feel like still the author might want it to be up for interpretation, where you might hear it as someone yelling fight repeatedly in your ear, or you hear it as the way you explained it, more of like, fight. But when she runs away from her dad after that argument, Teller follows her. And she's like being blinded by the light. I take it as like she's got a horrible migraine, like probably more like,
oh yeah,
you know, like she's in tears.
I have migraines, and
same.
Like I mean, when she was doing that, I was like, poor girlie, I gotcha. Ooh.
And then because he's the one who tells her, you have the crown.
You've got a crown. But do you want to go through the part, because you tabbed it in the book to specifically talk about,
and a lot of these, but you have to do it. You have to do this build up where probably the first half of the book was kind of just trying to figure out the roles everyone was going to play. Mm-hmm. So we probably should discuss a little bit about, you know, kind of how Diem started, you know, ignorant, and then what happened with
But she
Henry.
also thought she was, like, on top of the world because she's a healer, but other people her age are just trainees, and she's going to go serve in the palace and, like, live up to what her mom did, even though her mom's no longer here. She's going to fill those shoes.
Even though she doesn't have the full knowledge. And then
by the end, she's like, I don't think I want to be a healer. And
then she gets trusted with this information, and then as soon as she sees the one descendant kill that little boy that was half mortal, she decides, I'm going to help the Guardians, tells them secrets about the palace.
While breaking her healer's oath.
Yeah, because essentially they have the same oath as, like, our doctors, you know? So she does that, and then as soon as they bomb the palace, she's hating herself. So there's all this growth she has to go through to become the heroine I think the author wants her to be in the next book. She's not there yet. Yeah, she has the crown, but she still has a lot of growing left to do. She still
has a lot to even realize, because she doesn't... I guess the Descended keep it that way, so the mortals don't know a lot about...
Because if they know too much, that makes them dangerous. I mean, knowledge is power.
You keep them out of school for 3 extra years. That's a lot of formative
And they're probably
years.
totally different curriculums. Yeah. I mean, they probably have, certain basics that everybody learns.
But even hearing the difference from Teller and whatnot, like...
And I bet some of Teller's stuff is even still kind of being sugar-coated for him. There's probably classes at that academy he'll never be able to take because they would tell him too much about the Descended.
Also, I want to know more about, like, what exactly kind of deal did Orly make to get him there?
Like, I think I think that was just an add-on to the deal. I think the main deal was actually keeping Diem alive and keeping that, flame root or whatever accessible to her to hide her. And I think that was the main part. I don't know if this book does...
But, like, why would the castle and all these royal people, if they're in good health when they're making this deal 20-something years ago, why would they need that assurance?
Well, I guess because we don't know who her father is, and I don't know if this book, if they do prophecies. I know they talk about seers and stuff. A seer could have saw the child of X descended and so woman will be the next ruler.
And also, maybe the king knew that and wanted to keep Diem's mom close, close to him.
Because, at the end, in the epilogue, the mom explains that same room where she was at then was where she was locked up when she was pregnant with Diem. I think it sounds like she was a prisoner there at another time, probably leading up to being pregnant.
Yeah, and I think that's where, when she was being a spy, I think that's actually where she was, and possibly the spy situation was like...
But if it's so close that she can hear and see things happening in Lumos, it's got to be either that next neighboring realm or someone of power there. But if it's the king, then that would make Diem and Luther and...
I don't think it's the king. Yeah. I think it's an old god. Now I think it's an old god, or it could be the king of that warrior situation.
What if her mom is actually a descendant of the old gods and her father is a descendant?
Yeah, because her mom, there is a certain point where her mom, it's in this last part, she was talking about it because she said centuries. She could wait centuries or something like that. Okay, she could be stuck here for years, decades, centuries. Her body could be dust in the wind before another mortal soul touched the soil. Oh.
Well, that could also, that could be vague enough just to mean she just dies there. But at the same time, playing into the old gods and the descendants, if she's just a descendant and mortal, she shouldn't be more powerful than others because she would be a half-breed. So unless she's a half-breed with something more powerful, an old god and a descendant.
The crown transferring, remember Luther said, it's not necessarily by blood, it's by power.
Yeah, so because Luther even said, I'm the heir apparent,
and I am very powerful, but it's not guaranteed I'm getting it.
Yeah, so
I kind of like that.
Well, I think that keeps people honest in a way. Like, people
and it's not like they can lie
with
about
power. Yeah. They decide that, well, because my dad's king, I'm going to be king, so I'm going to do X, Y, and Z and rule the world.
You haven't read The Foxglove King?
I have not.
Okay. That's a series you really should read. I have all the books and whatnot, so you can borrow them.
Okay.
But I think that would be interesting for that power dynamic in conversation with this one.
Okay.
I think you'll like it. I really liked it.
I probably will.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think you've recommended me a book I haven't enjoyed yet.
Honestly.
There's probably, not all of them have been 4-star, but again, with my rating scale, it's not that surprising.
As long as you enjoyed reading it, I think that's all that matters. The Guardians.
Okay, so it doesn't really explain exactly how long Henry was involved, but it's alluded to. It's been a while because he got involved with them.
It's been a
while after
while,
seeing...
It was like a year ago.
Was it?
because she said it was before her mom disappeared, and she was just going along living her happy life and didn't know that Henry's life and his world were changing miles away.
So he joins them, and I guess the Guardians pretty much just try to do stuff to disrupt the lives of the Descendants, ruin military power, get money back, bring resources back to the mortals, which in theory they're doing the right thing.
It's acted like it's, like a Robin Hood situation, but in reality
they're making some of the same choices the Descended would,
like they're
to get
hurting
to that point.
Children.
Wait, so Henry, I believe Henry, that was mostly his plan.
Oh yeah,
I
because
think
the way he was
together,
like,
but they decided that,
I think Henry's higher up than you think, because he was like, put her on this mission. Everybody's like, no, and Vance was like, you got it.
Well, and then so they poison a little girl, and because they know she'll get sent as the healer.
Her test, yeah.
And while she's there, her test is to try to get any information. Well, she gets way more than anybody else apparently ever has.
Because nobody else has ever succeeded on the mission yet. They're allowed into the Guardians.
Yeah. So she, gives them a wealth of knowledge, which is great, and she thinks she's done wonderful. But she realizes, I think even at that point, she knew that little girl got that flower in a way she shouldn't have. And then it's kind of solidified the farther in you go. And at the end, Henry's like, yeah, I knew. So what of it, essentially? Like, he does not care if young innocents have to die, whether they're... As long as that
mortals can also be... Yeah,
But that's not going to help the power dynamic, because you doing the same things the people you see as bad doing is just going to keep that cycle going. You're going to steal the power back with brute force and anger, and in 20, 30, 50 years... it's gonna cycle again.
Yeah,
there's got to be a peaceful coming, and
I also have to say, so I think that's part of it, that like the Descendants can see over the mortals, and I think that's also what her dad sees, and he was trying to teach her this whole time.
Yeah.
Also, I was just so surprised that Henry was able to keep all of it hidden from her dad, so her dad didn't suspect that he was part of the Guardian/Rebellion.
Well, how much time did him and her dad actually spend together?
Well, remember her dad was like, you're gonna marry that boy at a certain...
But all he knew of him was that he is the son of a parcel delivery man, the most esteemed one in the realm.
Yeah, so I guess he hasn't seen him a ton lately.
Because his dad gets to deliver to the palace. So I guess to her dad, that alone says they respect him enough, then that family is good. He didn't have... I mean, I could see how he didn't really talk
to Henry.
Yeah, there was no reason for them to spend time together, know each other. So it was easier for Henry to hide.
Yeah. You're right.
I don't know. Henry wrote me wrong. I don't care for him.
From moment one.
I mean, that was one of the very first things we texted each other about was Henry. I
have to scroll all the way back.
It's too bad you can't start separate text threads. Like we'd have one going for each book we read.
Oh, so her powers were kind of triggered by not taking the flame root powder and crossing the border that time.
Yes.
Yeah. Also, you said, I think Henry's going to turn out to be bad.
I had a feeling.
And I think we were on chapter 10 or something, so we hadn't come to it yet. I hadn't come to that chapter where we went into the tavern and saw him with his buddies.
Oh, yeah.
When I sent this, but I said, yeah, Henry is with a rebel group or something? What about her brother?
Well, there's just something, even from the beginning, the way he kind of treated her, that just didn't seem like he really had her best interest in mind, or that he was a good person per se. I think he might have joined the Guardians like a lot of people with the intention of doing something good to get mortals back on equal footing, but that's not who he is by the time we're reading about him.
Yeah. Okay, so I think Teller's gonna be killed by the end of the book. Henry is cool with lying to DM, so he's gonna try to recruit Teller, meaning I thought Teller was gonna die and also part of it.
But he ended up more recruiting her, and Teller stayed innocent to all of it. For the most, it doesn't allude that Teller knows.
He wanted to wife her up. He's gonna end up being an issue for sure, meaning Henry, and then I said, I think DM's gonna kill him.
I mean, it's very
I wouldn't
possible.
be surprised if in the second book.
Well, he absolutely hates the Descendant, and now she is the leader of them.
And it's gonna be so weird because, yeah, she is the leader of them, so now he's just gonna hate her more, and you're like, a while ago you were wanting to marry her, the next day.
You should be looking at this as something that would be a betterment for mortals and Descendant alike.
I think he just likes being part of the Guardians for the violence and against the Descendant, because he's saying, you were hurting my people, now I'm gonna hurt yours, not coming together and being like,
let's
solve
actually
this
change. Let's become
peacefully.
better people. Yeah,
Yeah.
he cares about the violence, the war, the nitty gritty, the dirtiness of it. He's not actually in it for real change. He just wants his power. He's on a power trip.
He is. Still not feeling great about Henry. Same. He seems shady.
I mean, I wasn't wrong.
Like, he just offered Diem up to the mission in the palace.
Yeah.
Sketch. Like...
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't really care about her unless she can benefit him. And I feel like he thinks that way about everybody. And I still think there's a chance he's going to use Teller in the next books to go against her.
Yeah.
I mean, whether he takes him as, like, a kidnapped victim, or he just outright hurts him, or just lies to her and says he does those things to manipulate her.
Or he's going to see Teller and Lily.
Yeah.
And he's going to take Lily to hurt Diem both ways.
Or he tells anonymously tells the Descendants about Teller and Lily, because they kill mortals that are...
Or he's going to tell the Guardians, and the Guardians are going to kill Lily.
Yeah.
For the other.
Or he tells both, and both of them die. And then you got Prince
Diem's
Luther
kind of like
Diem.
responsible for it.
I can't imagine
Also,
Luther
is
mad,
hot.
though. That's how I picture him. I mean, based off the description they
He's
gave.
hot, and he lets her, like, keep her knife and stuff, and is like... What was that part where he was like, okay, kill me, but let me kiss you first?
Yeah, like... He was, okay.
It was a slow burn. And it
wasn't really bad. Like, there
was no sexual stuff, really.
There was tension. There was, like, the build.
There was sex between Henry and Diem, but it wasn't graphic.
But no, and it wasn't... that was just a holdover. It wasn't even really... To me, it wasn't even really,
more like she just needed
getting it scratched,
And
it wasn't necessarily...
It also gave more to, like, the relationship between her and Henry, and...
Well, but also, I think
how she's feeling emotionally with what happened at the armory catching on fire and stuff, and being like...
But I also kind of saw it as that even with them having sex, there wasn't really a emotional connection per se.
There wasn't for her.
Yeah, for her. So for her, it was like...
Is Henry a narcissist?
Probably.
I think Vance is,
but I think the crappy experience with him is what is allowing her to feel this tension and these sparks with Luther without actually having to do anything. Mm-hmm. And it's going to make that payoff of them being together that much sweeter. A lot of times I feel like with books like this, fantasy romance novels, is they rush into the payoff of the star-crossed lovers, enemies to lovers, getting together too quickly.
Yeah.
I like that we haven't actually really seen them as a item or even really all that flirtatious in the book yet. There's still room for growth. You've seen them go from being standoffish with each other a little bit,
like respecting each other,
mm-hmm. and then to being able to be
trusting, and then what they are.
Yeah, so I think by her crappy relationship with Henry and the comparison of this growth with Luther, we're actually seeing a good payoff of enemies to lovers.
Also, I'm really curious to see how Henry takes the news of what Diem's become. Because Luther knew from that night she spent at the palace when she, like, healed really fast.
Well, that's why he was
like, you don't know what you are.
Yeah.
You don't know. You don't know. And I think that's also why he knows about the full backstory of the deal. That's probably why the deal happened with
her mom, because Luther knew who she was going to be, and they probably just wanted to protect her. And that's they were providing the flame root or whatever, and she just had to, take care of everybody in the palace. Everyone had to keep their mouth shut. And it might be in the same prophecy that it is prophesized that they end up together. Or the seer saw, whatever you want to call it.
Just the difference between, like, Luther being there for her and, like, accepting her and being like...
Because no one else there... and
then Henry's going to be a shithead about it. Yeah. Like, you already know he's going to be.
Oh, he's
the worst.
He's going to try to kill her.
And and she's going to have to kill him. Also, I love the prophecy she keeps seeing in her head where she's, like, standing on a battlefield or something.
What is
and then she saw that, like, shadowy thing, and then she was like, that's Luther, and, like...
But it's also so vague that you don't really know which side of the war she's on. At that point...
Because Luther's going to be there with her either way.
Yeah, so she's either fighting for the Descendants, fighting for the Mortals, or fighting for...
Old gods.
Old gods, or what ultimately should be being fought for is just equality for all. But I think they're going to probably portray that more as the downfall of the Descendants with the rise of the Old God.
You would really love the Foxglove King, that whole series. I think if you read those two, there's, like, a third one coming out, but it would put a lot more of this into perspective and be like,
I'm catching myself thinking things about this book and how it crossed over to the one we were talking about When the Moon Hatched.
Yeah, I have not read that one yet. It's on my shelf waiting for me.
There's a lot of things that kind of just get kind of repeated in fantasy novels that when you read the way I read and you read them back to back, it does take a moment to kind of differentiate. Okay, like we're similar here, but we're different books.
But the kind of underlying like thought behind a lot of them is.
I saw one of those, there's a lot of tropes that writers use and stuff.
Yeah.
I came across a joke about one recently, and as I was skimming over this book and reading some of my other books this week, I read it probably 20 times, and it was the line that a lot of the authors use, I let out the breath I didn't realize I was holding
God.
in. And
I'm like, how do you not realize you're holding your breath, girl? Like,
and I've probably read that line 1,000 times at this point, and I never really clicked.
Read it,
now
you're
because I've seen something about it, I'm like, oh God. And in one book I read, the main characters use that line like 5 or 6 times the whole book.
And you're like,
how many times are you going to hold your breath?
without realizing you're doing it? Like, come on. First time
life's not that scary. Like, figure it out, man. Figure it out.
He can't be that hot.
Apparently they are. We don't know much about Vance, who's the apparent leader right now of the Guardians.
He's going to have some connection with her dad, I think.
I
some weird old war connection.
Probably, and I think a lot of these people who say they worship the old gods like the Guardians do, I don't necessarily think they even actually worship the old gods.
And I think that's what's going to really rock their world.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, at one point, Diem was like, you've manipulated what even the Tree of Life, is that? Tree of the Everflame?
Yeah, because that's the spark of the Everflame.
Yeah, so whatever, she's like, you've manipulated what it means. So, also, when what were they, the Kindred? Were those the ones that came down, I guess, from heaven?
They were the original ones that had the most power and what started the Descendants. So the Descendants in power right now are not like full-blood, all-powerful beings, and that's why
the Kindred came down and they had mortal mates.
And the bloodline started getting diluted, so they stopped allowing them to mate with mortals, and so it's now Descendants can only mate with Descendants to try to keep power. Apparently, that's how they say it.
Yeah.
But there's also, people in power will make stories to fit the narrative they need it to fit. So
exactly,
they could lie and say that by having a kid with a mortal, they're diluting their power, which technically by genetics, that's not wrong.
But what if all of the kindreds came from the old gods in a way?
Yeah.
And they just got so far off course that Diem's the chosen one to bring them all back on course. And what if she is only one of the 9? What if there's other people like her in the realms?
And together they all have to come together. And
yeah. That would be really cool, I think.
But see, that's the nice thing about a fantasy book. This could go any way. Like this, at this point, she could
we have no clue what she's going to do.
She could be the end-all be-all power, or
and
she
Luther
could be one of 9.
Pretend to be in power, and she's like behind the scenes because they don't want
to be a figurehead because they know that a woman who is seen as a mortal for so long taking power could be considered an issue.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's so many ways that we can continue forward with this.
That's why the second book is so exciting.
But then it goes back to, will the second book actually live up to it?
Yeah.
Will it give us enough payoff to want to even read the third book? Because to know the fact that there's more than 2 books out there means that the second book has to leave us on some kind of cliffhanger while giving us payoffs from this book.
And it's really hard for the first book in a series to be so good and the second one to continue to be that. You were talking about it earlier, but
I mean, and then, because it is hard. It's harder than a first book or even a third book or a final book.
Because you have to make sure that continuancy.
You gotta have payoff and cliffhanger.
What is the word I'm thinking? I'm not continuancy.
Yeah.
It all makes sense and you don't accidentally say the wrong detail.
Yeah.
Because this was indie published, I believe, first.
And how long was this one out before she was able to actually drop the sequel? So there's things that happen over time, whether authors realize it or not. Was the sequel published by a larger house or a larger publishing house and not done indie, or did she choose to do indie because publishing houses wanted something different? Because that does happen a lot, unfortunately. But I mean, ultimately...
Especially with this one being on KU for so long.
But ultimately, if the second book is, I'd say, 3/4 as good as this, it'll be worth reading. To get the payoff from this book. Now, would I pick up the third book if the second book's not as good? Probably not. And I'm typically a completionist. I like to finish a series if possible.
See,
but if it's not
if the
good,
next book I read in the series isn't good, I'm not going to continue it because who cares?
But if I read the first book and I really like it, I'll give the second one in a series. But if the second one does not live up to it,
You just say, whatever.
yeah. And especially because with how many different books there are, that series, you still gotta wait for the next book. Because you got me with that once. I'm not doing that again.
Which one? The Heartless?
No, it wasn't The Heartless Hunter. It was Ruthless Vows was the Divine Arrivals.
But you read that one and then the next one came out.
I had to wait.
But you had to wait for the
2.5
library.
months for the second book to come out, and I had to wait for Libby. And luckily, when I downloaded it on Libby, no one else was at the point where they could read it. So I was originally like 40th in line, and a couple days later, I got the notification. I'd rather just have a complete series. Yeah. You know what I'm getting myself into, you know?
Yeah, here, let me look this one up on Goodreads. Because I want to see when the next ones come out. Okay, so this is The Kindred's Curse. Okay, so the fourth one in this series is coming out on July 1st of this year, 2024.
Okay.
So the second one is Glow of the Everflame. Third is Heat of the Everflame. And fourth is Burn of the Everflame. And I don't see a fifth one.
No, I don't. But there's still, without having read, there's no way to know if there will be a fifth one yet.
This cover looks so cool. I think the cover shows that this is the last one. That looks like the prophecy.
Definitely. So she's actually dropping these fairly quickly. Like, the first book was June of 23. The second book came out July of 23.
Wow. Then September.
The third one, was September of 23.
And then the final one to date.
So her biggest gap is between 3 and 4.
But that could mean this one's like massive.
I don't think it has the projected number of pages yet. No, it doesn't.
No. It could be massive. Or it could not be. I don't know. I really liked this one.
Book 3 says it's over 1,000 pages. How did she go? The first book, how much was...
It was like 300 and something.
438 pages, according to Goodreads, was the first book.
Okay. Book 2.
600. She jumped. 637 and then to over 1,000.
Okay, so I think that might mean, well, one, it's KU. Let's remember that. But also, maybe that's how she got away with making it into only 4 books or something.
Well, hopefully there's got to be a lot of payoff for 1,000 pages.
I mean, there was a lot of payoff in this one, and I'm not saying there was like a whoo climax all through it, but it was enough puzzle pieces that kept you hooked, and it wasn't like jump scares or like...
And you got enough payoff, but a ton of groundwork laid that makes you want to keep going.
And so maybe that second, third, and fourth are just really great payoff.
Oh, I hope so, because if I'm going to read 1,000 pages...
Maybe wait to read the second one until the fourth one comes out. And then you can just reread the first one and then go straight through like you like to do.
Fair enough, I might. I don't know. I set a goal for myself, my last few books of my 100 for the year, which I'm approaching a lot faster than I thought I would.
Have you done a projection for yourself? I need to do one of those to see if I kept reading at my same rate per month, how many would I get to by the end of the year?
Mine's going to be crazy. According to Goodreads, I only have to read 1 book a week for the rest of the year to reach my goal.
How many are you averaging?
Anywhere from 3 to 6. It depends on how many pages of books. So anything less than 400, I can read in a day, day and a half. Maybe 2 if it's a work day. But
you want to explain that one?
So I work for a family business, so I have a lot more free time than the average person.
But also, you have downtime in your job, like
I do graphic design work and answer
where you don't have
phones
to
and emails.
fill in. You're doing customer service in a way, so you don't have to fill in with small tasks if you don't want to. So you can read a chapter here or there.
And because I work for a family business, no one cares if they walk in, because as long as my stuff is done, I can read a couple pages. And And I also...
Which is different to my job, where...
You're on the clock, you're on the clock.
I'm corporate girly.
Which, we really don't necessarily do too different of things in the scheme of we both kind of do the office side of a job. Like, yes, I do more customer service because I play many hats for my company.
But you don't read... Or you don't listen to audiobooks where I have like an hour commute each day, and
I have a 5-minute commute.
You truly do.
But I also
jealous.
But I also, like, we've discussed audiobooks.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have a place. I think they can be great for some people. You know, if you have a long commute, if you can't sit down and read because you're a new parent, or if I was a truck driver, I'd be reading audiobooks
all the time.
But me personally, and in the life I live, I have the option to hold a physical book or my Kindle, so I'm going to choose to do that. Because I don't have time to consume an audiobook the same way. if I can listen to something, I'm probably going to be watching a TV show
show
with my husband
or a
or
podcast.
something more like that.
Yeah.
Not trying to consume a book.
I will say some books are meant to be audiobooks.
Well, and I've heard that too. But
I think
also,
specifically thrillers do that really well.
we've also had this debate of when you register books as read for the year, how do you consider audiobooks?
I count them, and you guys know this. I do reviews, and in my monthly wrap-ups, I will tell you which ones are audiobooks and be completely honest
But see, I think
about
that's
it.
great that you're transparent about
And
it.
I also don't count it towards my monthly pages, because like on an average month, I'll read about 1,500 to 2,000 pages a month.
Yeah. So, but see, I have a lot of
But
respect
I don't
for
count
that.
my audiobooks in that because I was not flipping an actual page, but I also don't tally up how many hours I listened because who cares?
Well, so I saw a post that went viral, and it was a woman talking about how in a couple months she consumed like some 400 to 500 books. And in the article, she went on to say how it was something like most of them were audiobooks. She's a mom
she
that runs
sped 'em up a
errands.
lot, like-
Yeah, and she reads them at a faster pace, or has them read at a faster pace. So, I mean, I think that's great that you're consuming that,
But you
you're
should
getting
say
satisfaction.
you read 500 audiobooks.
Or say you consumed books.
Yes.
Because I feel like that's a more encompassing, that's audiobooks, that's a physical book, that's a Kindle, any type of digital reader. We shouldn't really be like debating which way is the better. If you're consuming books, I'm glad you're consuming books. Like, please consume them. If you're doing like what we're doing, we're both trying to read 100 a year, and on the sly kind of being competitive with each other.
But you have an additional hour each day to read where I don't.
Yeah. So we're honest with each other about it. So when we're kind of being on the sly competitive, even though we're not, it's not a race
I mean,
between
when you
us, but
said
kind of
70,
is.
I said, damn.
Yeah. At first, we were trying to keep in line with each other.
But
And there
we're
was
also like kind of pushing each other, which is fun.
I mean, it makes it better. But we're open and honest about the fact that you consume audiobooks. So it's not like, I don't feel, if you were beating me right now, I wouldn't feel shorted because you're
sometimes
consuming
I
them in
will
a
sit
different
down
way.
and I'll do my paint by numbers for 8 hours and I will finish an audiobook. But also, you'll sit down, you'll read a book for so many hours and finish it in one sitting too.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like, I feel like it's quite fair.
But I probably will at some point dip my toes into audiobooks with the fact we're in my Lego room. I would typically, YouTube or a TV show or a movie as background noise, but an audiobook wouldn't be the worst way to go.
Yeah.
I just also, I don't know how I feel about other people reading to me. I haven't been a kid in years.
Okay, so I don't think of it as like they're reading to you. The character is telling their story to you.
Fair enough,
So
but
it would be from like DM's perspective and her going, I saw this sketchy man in the alley talking to my mom. And
my
blah,
mind
blah,
just
blah.
always go back to when you're a kid and your parents reading you a book and they do the funny
Yeah.
voices and try to just...
Some of them do that, and some of them are like casts, and they're really well done, and like really act out, and not like I'm surprised, but like when they're talking, that will be emoted.
I don't know. I probably, like I said, I probably will because doing stuff in this room, it's nice to have some kind of audio on, background noise essentially.
It
is what I
is.
typically consider.
And the reason my monthly count is down, because I've only read like 8 books or something this month, where I usually do like 13 to 15.
It's been a weird month.
I just haven't listened to audiobooks this month. I haven't been in the mood. Well, I started listening to a new to me podcast.
Oh, fair enough.
So it's like I've kind of been more into that side of consuming stories.
Well, and I have to be honest, the reason I've also been able to put back a little extra books over the last like month and a half is we've had equipment down at work a couple times, and if my office can't function, then I'm getting paid to sit there. So after I do, things that aren't to help everybody else because I can't do my job, I have all this free time now. And again, working for family does have
It's
its
better
perks.
that you're there than sitting at
Yeah,
home.
they would rather me be there and take phone calls while I can.
And help when
and
you
just,
can.
keep people happy until things are fixed.
Mhm.
I do have a lot of free time that other people don't have to read. It's not fair to be like, I feel like sometimes I come off bragging about my reading. And I
do
just,
not.
But I more try to make a joke out of it because it is
Like,
kind of funny to me. Like,
you've read 70 books this year and it's the end of May.
yeah. And
Like-
I have 5 more lined up to read, and it's very enjoyable, and getting recommendations has been one of the highlights.
You really like doing recommendations from, not like content creators or anything like that. You like getting it from like people in your life.
I people I know, and especially if it's somebody I respect, I love for them to recommend a book for me because it might not be something I'd ever pick up on my own.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, my favorite book of the year was one that I would have never picked up on my own, but my father-in-law recommended it. Cold Mountain, Charles Frazier. Might not be your cup of tea. I didn't think it was mine, but I
I'm
gave it
excited
5
to
star.
read it. It's on my Goodreads.
I gave it a
so,
5 star.
Yeah.
And it was one of the only ones this year that I've given a 5-star
Would you
to.
have picked this one up if I had not mentioned it to you?
Maybe eventually in my scrolling on Kindle Unlimited, just trying to find something to read.
Because you don't really get on Book Talk and find your recommendations
I don't use
there.
TikTok at all.
And you don't use Bookstagram or anything.
Nope. I have 2 Instagrams. I have my personal, and then I have one because I like wrestling. And my personal one just only exists because it has old photos of me and my husband when we were in college.
So you don't find them anywhere else, but I'll be like, I saw this TikToker, this booktuber, and this is how I found this book, and we should read it.
My older sister in Charleston, she reads, and if she gets a recommendation, she'll tell me. At the beginning of the year, I posted on Facebook telling people I was going to read 100. I took recommendations, and that's been a wide variety. I've read...
Been crazy.
I read Heart of Darkness, East of Eden. I would have never picked up had they not been recommended to me by people I know and love. I have a cousin who recommended most of them, and some of them were books I really would have never picked up. The Count of Monte Cristo, I'd heard great things, growing up about it.
You liked that one.
I did. It was pretty good. The Swiss Family Robinson, I did not like that one.
But you never would have read it.
But I would have never read it. Before the Coffee Gets Cold, recommended by my older sister. Phenomenal book.
I have that one from you on my shelf right now.
You recommended that one.
I did.
The Perfect Marriage.
Yeah, I listened to that one on audiobook.
I bet that was a good audiobook.
It was until the end, and I was like, my opinion has greatly changed. Loved the writing. I just didn't like the reveal at the end. I think I talked about in my February wrap-up.
So another one that was recommended that a lot of people talked highly of was The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn.
I haven't read it yet. I haven't read it yet.
Wow, without any spoilers, I gave it a 2-star. And so on my rating scale, I would still, it's not bad.
It's like a 3-star for me.
Read it. Like, I would still, for you who likes to read, I'd say read it. If you were someone who didn't enjoy reading... What was the other one? The Midnight Library? I haven't read that one yet. I haven't. It's sitting on my bookshelf.
We talk about that one a lot.
Yeah, that one I feel like is almost a controversial book. Not necessarily controversial, but it's a debated book of is it good or is it bad?
Because a lot of non-readers will read it and love it, but a lot of readers don't read it and not enjoy it.
And I guess that's finding that line.
But if it gets people into reading, it's a great book. But I also haven't read it.
It's sitting on my bookshelf. It's lined up, but
sitting on mine too.
Well, since I got my Kindle, and the Kindle does all those stupid challenges and reading insights, I have refused to break my streaks on anything. So I've been reading on the digital, and then I'll read a physical book in the morning while I drink my coffee.
Yes.
And then my Kindle through the day, because I don't like taking books out of the house, especially like you loaned me a book. I don't want it to get ruined. If it's not my book, I try to take very good care of it.
I get that.
Yeah.
I'm also going to say, I will have my hands covered in potato chip grease and then touch a hardback book. And then you will see my fingerprints.
It's one thing when it's your own book, but
it is what it is.
But I also
wouldn't want to return a book to you.
But that plays into the story of books too, though. Is like, okay, if I've already read it, what good is it on my shelf?
I'm gonna let you borrow it.
I might as well let you borrow it, and if you get a little grease on it, that just means someone else enjoyed reading.
Who cares? I mean, it's gonna.
You were so into it, you were snacking.
Just take the dust jacket off, and then we can put it back on. Nobody knows the story.
I've been recommended a lot, but there was another book club, not the one you introduced me to, it's a women's club. They do a book club. I didn't never join the club. They recommended a book to me, and I read it this year, and it was a book about a library. Let me pull up the name.
What?
Hold on. I've told you about this book. I know I recommended this book to you.
Okay.
I don't know how I wouldn't have recommended this book to you.
I'm sure you did. I can't remember. It's a book about a library.
It's called The Reading List. I gave it a 4-star. And it's a girl finds a list of books and she decides to read them. That's all you really need to know. Pick it up, read it. But I've decided that this list of books is how I'm going to finish out my 100.
Oh.
Because the last book on the list is the book A Suitable Boy. And it's an old classic, and it is known for being one of the largest books ever written, like in that scheme being written. It is, I believe it was like over 1,200 pages, physical copy.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. But some of the books on that list were things that like, The Kite Runner. So books we know.
I have that one.
Yeah. So my plan is to...
Check the list and see if I have any of them before you do anything for them.
But I mean, it's a book recommended books to me. It was great.
That's really cool.
Yeah. My sister did that with Ted Lasso, the TV show.
Oh.
He gives books out to the characters in it. Okay. And she found out what books they were.
And so she
been reading them. Inspiration for books comes from everywhere.
Do we have any final thoughts?
Good book. Read it.
I recommend it. I give it 5 stars. If you like romantasy, if you like kind of mystery, I thought it was going to be more thrillery going throughout, but it really wasn't.
And it wasn't too spicy. There wasn't any real content in it that made you like...
There was no graphic.
Yeah.
None of it was graphic. It was very closed door. Like, it's happening and then the door gets closed.
And slow burn, it was really a great way to put it. There's just...
Well, slow burn with Luther.
Mm-hmm. And Henry's... Screw Henry.
And also, it's kind of coming of age, even though she's like 23 or something. Her world's kind of like collapsing as she knows it.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, life-changing events are about to unfold.
Yeah, if you like any of those tropes, please try this book. If you have KU, like, why not give it a shot? I really like it.
I feel like not an easy and like it's a boring read, but easy like
it's very
you want
easy to
going.
consume. It's very easy to read and understand.
You're sitting at the beach Memorial Day weekend, like it is. Perfect book to sit at the coast and just get through because it's just easy to read. It's enjoyable.
Read. You can read it in a weekend.
Yep.
I don't know about the next 3, but
I'll let you know.
Alrighty, so thank you all for watching this video. If you're cool to wrap up.
Yep, I'm good to go.
So if you enjoyed this video, consider giving it a like and do not forget to subscribe. I release a new video every Friday. And if you have read this book or if you've added it to your TBR, go ahead and comment below and let me know. I would love to hear your thoughts about it and if you added it, or if you have any recommendations for what we should read next time. And would you like to do another one of these episodes or not?
Yeah. And we'll figure out, we won't do another series. Going forward, we'll do standalone novels.
We did choose a book though.
Yeah,
do you want to share that one?
Let me pull it up on my Kindle.
So then if people want to read with us next time, do you want to announce what the next book is?
Oh, Through a Darkening Glass. It's a standalone novel that has got
by R.S. Maxwell. I'll have the cover up on the screen.
That's just going to be our next
one. We're going to do and have a little talk about. And
yeah, I'm trying to stay ignorant to it now, and we're going to space out the reading a little different this time. Not start it a week and a half before we decide to film.
2 weeks.
Yeah, actually it was 2 weeks we started.
Over 2 weeks.
Never again. Yeah, never again.
That one really tested
you.
Your
really
patience.
did pace. I mean, I learned some things about myself when it came to reading.
I did too.
I don't have patience when it comes to reading. I love it though. No, I mean,
yeah.
I've really enjoyed what you brought into my life with reading. I went years without reading.
I found a reading friend in a very organic way. We met through work.
We work in similar industries. She's technically my customer.
Technically, yes. Technically.
But I'd say we're more friends than...
We're friends.
Yeah, yeah.
When we're work.
Because even then, even if you quit your job tomorrow, we wouldn't stop talking. You know what I mean? Like... It's,
yeah, no, I know.
You know,
we would still be friends.
And like same, if I walked out of mine,
we would still be friends.
And it's nice to have someone who can read like me.
It really is. I mean, you read more than I do, so like.
No, I mean, it was a crutch for me in high school. I went through college not reading, and then I got challenged last year.
I went through college not reading for fun and for enjoyment and for happiness. I did it because it was my major, and I had to like become an adult and I did a whole little video on this, but
it's been fun. It's been a good time, and I guess maybe
I hope
next
you
month
read this book. Yeah.
See each other next month, maybe.
Yeah. So I will see you guys next Friday. Bye.